and welcome to the next episode of Drizzt Done Right, a podcast that is in no way saying that R.A. Salvatore did Drizzt wrong, but rather we are saying that we are attempting to make a podcast about Drizzt the right way. That's what that's all about. My name is Justin, and in this episode we'll be diving deep into chapter 24 of Homeland, titled To Know Our Enemies, discussing all of our favorite plot points, characters, and more.
Hey, this is Jeffrey, and since we're fans of Dungeons & Dragons, we're going to take a look at this chapter and how it relates to the tabletop game by delving into the dungeon.
Following along with the show is easy. Just grab a copy of the book, read the next chapter, and tune in every week. But remember, we want to hear your thoughts too. You can share those with us via email at drizztdoneright@gmail.com.
Or, better yet, we do have that Dim Light Squad. And if you're still asking what that is, well, I'm not sure why you haven't taken the quest to find out. But True. There's still time, because unlike Menzo Berenson, we welcome visitors from everywhere. The link is in the episode description. Just hop onto our Discord and go beyond the page. I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you who are listening on Pocket Casts. You've just taken over second place on our episode downloads. We love to see our audience growing from all different platforms. If you can't find us somewhere that they have podcasts, just let us know, maybe at that email that Justin just mentioned, and we'll plant our flag there as well. Remember, we're also on YouTube, so if you want to have a laugh at our expense or see the beautiful people behind these voices, come on in and tune in.
I don't know about that. Yes, speaking of YouTube, every once in a while we'll get a comment, not many. A couple of them are bots, I'm pretty sure, but I just wanted to dim light one comment that we got from B-Tackett2.
Hey, bots are people too. No, they're not. No, they're not. I'm sorry.
He commented on episode 20 when Drizzt first goes to the surface for the raid. We were talking on the show about how Drizzt had the belief, or Drow rather, had the belief that their magic and enchantments didn't work on the surface. Now, I didn't go back and listen to our conversation, but I could be totally like making up what we talked about. But I remember feeling like the fear that the Drow had of losing their magic on the surface probably wasn't really supported with any real evidence, but rather stemmed from their hate of the horrible surface world. They only went to the surface. They only go to the surface maybe once every few decades, they said, right? Like 20 or 30 years. So they could have easily created these misconceptions like that. Anyway, B-Tackett2 commented on episode 20 saying that if he remembered correctly, in the second edition of D&D, Drow enchantments broke down in the sunlight very quickly. This would create a very interesting flow of magic items through a campaign. Like, imagine you have a party exploring through the Underdark. They return with this overpowered magical item or items, but as soon as they step out into the sunlight, their enchanted Drow scimitar that they found degrades to dust, much like Tom Holland in Infinity War. Sorry if you haven't watched it yet. It's what? Probably
spoiler alert.
5 years old at this point.
Oh, it's got to be older than that, I think.
I don't know.
Right around there.
So, Jeffrey and I were a little late to the D&D party. We started playing soon after 5e came out, but I love hearing these insights from the earlier editions. So, if anyone picks up on anything from these books that are explained better through the context of these earlier editions of D&D, let us hear them. Jeffrey, what have you been up to lately?
Well, been watching some TV, been interacting on socials. I just actually ran into a guy from the Power Slap League. Have you heard about this at all?
Not by its name.
So I'm a big UFC fan. I like watching fights.
No, not the thing where they slap each other.
So UFC. No. So I go on there under the Robert and Robbins radio from the podcast, or the video podcast I do, and they're just tearing it apart, right? These guys are like, oh, if you slap first, then you always win. It's just not true, right? I don't fight. I've never watched a fight. I might eventually, but I just never watched the slap league. But I do know that that's not true. So I go on the online. I'm telling the guys like, well, imagine just jumping in here and being completely wrong about what you do because you want to make a comment, right? So he jumps back, says something. I just bumped down. It's like, what I'm talking about is people who have no idea what they're talking about, commenting like they're an authoritarian figure on the sub. And so, one of the guys from the Power Slam League reached out to me. Yeah, and he likes my post, and he's like, hey, man, I want to send you some merch. I was like, huh?
What?
So high five to the bearded mullet on Instagram. That's his name. And
Whoa.
yeah, I was like, that's really cool, man. I've never really had too many people who, I guess it's celebrity at some level, obviously far more than I am, and reach out to me and have a positive response. Because, I'm defending the guy inadvertently, but because
Right.
I'm just really, I hate people who sound like they're in a, what do you call it? A master on a subject they know nothing about.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Like what Socrates used to say when, wanted to find the most intelligent person in the world. And artists think they're the most intelligent,
Yep.
but they blame it on a muse. But architects think they're intelligent, but they're really just good at architecture. It's like when people have a expounded opinion without any
Right.
basis to back it up, it just kind of, I got a jab at them.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that was fun. It was nice. I got to see you this week play a little bit of a board game.
Oh,
Circumstances
that's right. That
could have
was a
been
lot of fun.
better, but seeing you, the homemade pizzas, man, yeah, that stone you got in the grill were
Oh man,
fantastic. The
I
pizza
gotta
was
tell
great.
you. I mean, but I need to let listeners know as well. Just if you have not made your own pizza dough and grilled it on a pizza stone in a grill, you haven't had good pizza. I mean,
Yeah, you're missing out.
It's really easy to do. It's a lot of fun when you're having people over. You just put a bunch of toppings in the middle of the table. People can make their own pizzas. You throw it in the grill and just turn up the grill as hot as you can with the pizza stone in there, and it's phenomenal. I mean, the pizza takes 3 to 5 minutes to cook, depending on the day. If you try to do it in the winter, it's not going to cook as quickly, but yeah, 3 to 5 minutes, you have a pizza, and it's
And
really
it reminds me of for the people who are listening, it reminds me almost of a brick oven pizza, essentially. Except
Right,
you're
yeah.
doing it in a much smaller thing, so you get the crust. It gets a little charred to it. It gets that chewy flavor
Yep.
or chewy
Yep.
flavor, the
Texture.
chewy texture, and it was great. For those who are wondering, we played Pandemic, the Legacy
the
edition.
legacy version. Whoa.
I love that because then every time you play it, it changes. And
Yep.
for us and our family, we love playing games together. D&D, board games, just about anything. And to have a game that changes as you play it is a really cool concept. Also,
absolutely.
it's co-op. So I'm a bit competitive. I have Diablo 4. Going to go play that, Slash Monsters in a little bit. I am extremely competitive. So whatever I play, I'm usually looking for a way, like just to flip a tile and beat somebody, right?
Yep.
It's nice to be able to take that away and just enjoy playing together in co-op mode.
You're working with each other to beat the game rather than
Yep.
each other. Yeah.
Yep. It allows me to be a lot less intense with the people I'm playing with. Because I'll tell you, if we strap on the Monopoly gloves, somebody's catching a gauntlet.
Oh man, like in real life. Yep.
Yep. That's the game that makes you hate everybody.
Yeah, there's a number of games like that I've played, and it's just like, you know what? I can't play those anymore. They're friendship breakers. Monopoly's one of them. Munchkin, the card game, was another one. I don't know if you've ever played that.
I did.
Yeah, it's sort of like D&D, but it's like making fun of it and everything. And that one's a fun one. But yeah, that was definitely a highlight of my week, getting to have pizza and play board games with you and Elizabeth and Sarah. So that was a lot of fun. So.
And for those not located in the northeast of the United States, it's been a hot one the last couple of days.
Man.
So I am thankfully down in my subterranean basement, a little cooler, ready to record, ready to dive on into the insights.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get right into this.
Beautiful, beautiful. I bet that our loyal listeners thought that we're going to jump right in to the Drizzt of it. But we come up on our final insight check of the book. This is where we roll insight and walk inside the mind of Drizzt himself. Drizzt reflects on Zach Nafane, names him mentor, teacher, friend. He recognizes that at times Drizzt was unable to see him in any of those roles. I mean, perhaps he expected too much. The line between them was razor thin. If circumstances had been altered, well, then Drizzt may have grown up to be just like Zach, buried under the daily assault of the wickedness that is Menzo Berenzon and the pervading evil that was his family. I love that line, by the way. Mm-hmm. When he puts that in there, it just kind of like sinks it, like right into the emotion and the meat of that, like
Oh yeah.
pervading evil that was his family. Zach Nafane's existence may have provided Drizzt with an example to learn from, to grow from. I find it interesting that he says, truth, though, is nothing in the face of self-falsehood, and principles are of no value if the idealist cannot live up to his own standards. What do you think this means, Justin?
I saw this question in your notes, Jeffrey, and I read that quote and I was like, I have no freaking clue what that means. I had to go back and I brought up the book, the actual like Kindle book on my phone here,
Right.
and I needed the first half of this paragraph to really try to start to understand this. The first half of the paragraph says, "Is this course I have chosen a better way than the life Zaknafein knew? I think yes, though I find despair often enough sometimes to long for that other way. It would have been easier," and then it goes into truth, though, is nothing in the face of self-falsehood, and principles are of no value if the idealist cannot live up to his own standards. And without looking at your response to this too much, it's totally a jab at Zaknafein.
Yep.
Living a life of lies. He's claiming to be someone that he's not. He's this idealist, but he's not able to live up to his own standards because he turns into this drow going around killing other drow and just, not, I don't know. There's so much in that quote, Jeffrey.
Yeah. No, and I feel like I do. I feel like he's taking a shot at Zaknafein here. I mean, maybe he means that Zak is unable to live up to his own ideals, which makes his truth meaningless because his actions speak louder than his words.
Yep.
I think that Drizzt is trying to say that Drizzt's choice, is better because he chooses to live by his ethos, no matter the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty slick.
Oh, yeah.
Drizzt lives with many laments, but none stronger than the loss of Zaknafein. There is no pain greater than this, not the cut of a jagged-edged dagger, nor the fire of a dragon's breath. Nothing burns in your heart like the emptiness of losing someone, before you truly have learned of its value. Often now I lift my cup up in a futile toast, an apology to ears that cannot hear, to Zak, the one who inspired my courage. That's hauntingly beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And at this moment, I really feel that like Drizzt is like a mirror reflection of Zak when he would brood on the balcony looking out at the city, but seeing the deeds that he lamented, like, the 1,000-yard stare where he sees the mushroom grove, but what he's really seeing is the butchering of the children of the nobles in the closet, or the screams of the innocent drow that he has taken the lives of in the, under the guise of being trapped in his role as weapon master and such.
Now, do you think that's like the final straw for Drizzt as far as like, I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record because I keep going back to the same concept of just like, Zak, Drizzt, talk to each other. Like, you're on the same page. Like, you're basically the same person. But is it the fact for Drizzt? Is it the fact that that he knows that Zak went on to kill? Well, he didn't kill like young drow, but he kills clerics at least. I don't know.
Well, we don't know that he's ever going on to kill the children, but he feels responsible for their murder and their
That's
screams
true. That's
because
true.
of the ones
Yeah.
he's trained.
Right.
But I think it's almost like, and to me, I mean, if you really wanted to paint it with a basic brush, I guess, or generalize, it's like a teenager growing up with their parents, right? You look at what they tell you, and they're like, "This is how you live a productive life," and you're like, "Well, no." I mean, it's right or wrong. There's no gray area.
Right.
You're such a sellout because you don't do what you say. And they're, hey, do as I say, not as I do. Because they understand, what life is a lot of gray area. It's not as easy as go to work, cash a check, come home, be successful. Or, it's not as easy as wake up, protect family, live happily. There's so much that goes into every decision, every choice, every moment, really. And, like getting into the multiverse, right? There's so much that could just branch off in a billion directions that really you're just trying to survive the night and help out those you love as much as possible, no matter the toll and cost to you. And I think Zak sees that. But I think Drizzt is on the other end, where to him, he can still be naive and think that,
I see.
hey,
Okay, yeah.
you don't have to do that. Look,
Right.
there's what, 30 some odd more books. So I'm not saying Drizzt is wrong. He will grow into accept a different view and, continue to evolve himself. I just think that this, at least to this point, is almost like Drizzt looking at it and seeing, he doesn't know Zak is his parent, but to look at it and say that this authoritarian figure has made far too many compromises to really be who he seems to be. How dare he judge me and, make fun of me and mock me when I'm doing exactly what he wants to do.
Right.
It's with a broad brush. So now okay.
No, I was just going to say, like, what an awesome letter from Drizzt. And this is the last one? I don't know if there's one at the very end of the book or not.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe this is our last insight check. I say that we might run into another one, and you guys can all hold me accountable. Shoot the email, DrizztDoneRight@gmail.com. Go ahead. I can take it. Got big shoulders. You can see it on the YouTube.
So it's just a great letter from Drizzt. And I'm excited to jump into the second book and read more of those. But hopefully there's one at the end of the book. I don't know.
Oh,
it
and
kind of
again,
makes sense
for those
to cap it, but...
who are listening, we did talk about the fact that we will be moving forward, maybe trying out a different type of pacing. So want to make sure, again, we mention that out. When you hear this episode, come on into the Discord, go into the general discussion. I put something up there today. I wanted to make sure, how you all feel about the pacing, going part by part instead of chapter by chapter, trying to take a quicker look at the entire book so we can churn through more of the material, but not give you any less of an actual episode.
Yeah, it would be really nice to be able to do more than 2 books in a year.
Yes. Because ideally...
I want to read these, Yep, I want to get through these.
I put that in the discussion post. I said, we would like to finish the entire Drizzt series before we collect our pension. Before I start getting discounts at the buffet because of my age, I just want to make sure we get through some of these books. And I think that our listening base would enjoy it as well.
Awesome. Okay.
So, do you know what it is now?
I think it's time to jump into the Drizzt.
Now, we get to the Drizzt. This is the part of the show where we take a look at this week's chapter and give you the Drizzt of it. We find ourselves with Briza as she recounts the Gnome Olympics. Trademark, that's mine, can't take it. Gnome Olympics.
Darn it.
She's recounting the scores to Matron Malice, and it turns out that it's a clear victory, with the Dark Elves scoring almost 40 gnomes. They said almost 2 score. I had to do a quick math lookup. It's 20 per score, so almost 40 gnomes.
Okay, gotcha.
And the Svirfnebli tallying a mere 8 drow.
8? That's 8. They're okay.
That's not even a quarter of them. Yeah. And they only stand half as high as the drow. So if we were measuring by metric unit, the drow still come out ahead.
Yeah, I guess.
Matron Malice cuts to the chase and really only cares about how Do'Urden fared. And Briza lets her know that Dinan fearlessly slew 8 as he led the main assault. But Drizzt, not a single one.
Not one. And to that, how does she react?
Ooh. Malice is like a steaming tea kettle at that point. She's about to lose her patience. But Briza still has this wicked little smile on her face.
She knows something.
As she sees Malice having no fun in this at all, she quickly puts out and says, the day belonged to Drizzt. He defeated an earth elemental all alone. Almost. With only minor help from a wizard. Confirmation came from a high priestess, and Malice gasped and turned away, demanding that Briza gather her sisters and meet in the chapel. Malice doesn't care about the gnomes. She only sought a way to parlay Drizzt's heroics into gain for House Do'Urden. Mm-hmm. Surely, with this favor, Lolth will tell her who is behind the threat to their great house. Sacred incense burned in the chapel from a bowl of the deepest onyx, sweet, death-like, favored by the Yahlal. I do like the way you pronounce it, so I'm going to hit that every time I can. The flame disappeared as it was consumed by the image of a Yahlal, a half-melted pile of wax with grotesquely elongated eyes and a drooping mouth. It demanded to know who had summoned it. Justin, when I read this, it just struck me. Do you think that Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast was a Yahlal? Well, because, he's a candlestick, and the description might fit it if you consider that on the lower planes, life is probably a little bit more rough than a Disney film. Probably.
I might have to rewatch that movie with that in mind and just think, whenever we don't see Lumiere on screen, he's actually, serving Lolth in the abyss. Yep. And just, see how that changes the movie for me.
And behind the scenes credit, I totally butchered that candlestick's name. Justin was the one who came on in and let me know it's Lumiere, because I did not. I killed it. Thank you, buddy.
No problem.
Matron Malice, she stands forward. She has summoned the Yahlal. which immediately disappears. Poof.
Oh, off he goes. Or she. Probably she. And that's that,
Yeah, no,
right?
that's a good point. Yep. And that's no, that's not where the chapter ends, because then it reappears full-sized behind her and lays two sickly tentacles on her shoulders. Like I could just picture the slime.
Yep. Just like
oh.
the wax just like melting over her shoulder and then recombining and blah.
Malice didn't flinch, though, for she was confident. Malice explains that she wants to ask a question, but the Yachlal says she already knows the answer. She demands an answer, and the handmaiden replies, if the answer is so important, and it is known to the handmaidens, and thus to the Spider Queen, do you not believe that Lolth would have given it to you if she so chose? And she says, maybe before this day, but now things have changed on this day. Suddenly, the Yachlal's eyes roll back into its head. Oof. Could it get any more terrifying, Justin? I mean, it's a melted pile of wax, and you're telling me the elongated eyes now roll into...
Those things are so creepy. Those things are so creepy.
Like, I want to see a dance-off between a Yachlal and a Mind Flayer. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be interesting. Do you think
Two nightmare images.
Do you think that a Mind Flayer would actually dance, or would it just like mentally dance? And it like, I don't know, like...
I imagine that its tentacles from its mouth would be like Squidward, like... That's how it would dance. The voice that came forth was overly smooth and calm. Matron Malice greeted the Spider Queen. Apparently, she was right in her confidence. Oh, here we go.
Go ahead. You can do it.
Daerman and the Shazbaernin has pleased Lolth, the handmaiden said. The males of your house have won the day, even above the females that journeyed with them.
Wow.
I must... Over the females.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often in this society.
No.
I must accept Matron Malice Do'Urden's summons. Malice explains that she only asks for an answer to a simple question, to which the Yachlal replied in a mocking tone, because it's serving as the medium to the Spider Queen, that it revealed it already knew the question. Or it already knew the question she was going to ask.
Oh, right, yeah.
She demands the name of the house which seeks to destroy House Do'Urden. But the Spider Queen does not give answers to questions that are already known.
Love that.
Malice rages. Someone in the family must be keeping a secret from her. Briza rations that, maybe the one hiding the information doesn't know that they're hiding it. They quickly reason that it must be one of the stupid males who have missed the importance of a minor detail. Drizzt and Deenan return a short while later and are greeted with sarcasm from Zaknafein. The hero has returned. Deenan brustles at being dismissed, but Zack only wants to talk to Drizzt. He slaps Deenan twice in the face with one hand when Deenan tries to stand up for himself. And Deenan suddenly found the other hand holding a dagger at his neck.
Crazy.
Right? Spluttering, like that word, spluttering, he takes his leave. Like, be gone. Bye. Zack laughs as Drizzt tells him he's made an enemy. He's made many. Zack lavishes praise on Drizzt for killing the Earth Elemental. And this hits Drizzt in his feelings, and he implies that maybe Zack is jealous of his deeds. Zack snorts in laughter and tells the sniveling young boy that his mother awaits. There will be time for their meeting in the gym later. I love this because it's kind of like a tete-a-tete, right? Where they're already just verbally sparring, and they're like, ching, ching, ching.
Yep.
Like, hey, I'll meet you with sharp swords later, punk. The snap of a whip changes the scene and brings Drizzt out of his contemplation. He's coming up in a hallway, and he hears the whip crack out, and Risen is being inspired.
Oh, man, you use that wording too. Darn it.
Yes, sir. Shout out to when you used it earlier. Had to do a callback. By which I mean, interrogated by Briza. From the hallway, Drizzt hears Briza confirm that Risen isn't his father, nor is he Vierna's. Risen tries to lash out with insults and threats. He will expose Briza and her ambitions to Matron Malice, to which Briza laughs. All eldest daughters have the same ambition. Drizzt wonders if Briza might go too far and actually kill Risen. He kind of wants to jump in, but just holds himself back. He can't.
Yeah. Yep. Well, he wanted to jump in and kill both of them, is what he was saying.
In another room, on the other side of Menzo Berenzin, another interrogation was going on. This time, Massage is on the receiving end. He defends his actions to Matron Sinafe. He attacked Drizzt. He would have finished him, if not for the monster. He promised that he will get him before the 10th cycle of Narvandel, as commanded. Sinafe grudgingly accepts her son's reasoning and lets him leave. But, in a plot twist, Alton is waiting.
Love that.
He's heard everything, and Matron Sinafe explains that Massage is not getting a second chance any more than she's going to give Alton a second chance. So you know what? Alton is going to follow him and keep him safe. He's going to finish this deed, or he's going to lose his life. Back to Drizzt, he's under question with far less inspiration than Risen had taken so far.
Well, he did get like a slap to the face or something.
Yeah, but he was not getting snake whipped.
Correct.
Like, Risen was in mid whap, and at the end we'll dive into that. But at the end, he was getting more than a simple tap here and there.
Yeah.
So Dinan actually tries to pipe in, but he's quickly silenced. Again, it's twice in this chapter.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to hear from Dinan. Drizzt tried to recall all of the minor details they wanted as he heard the snap of the snake whip on Dinan's back. I liked that they explained that Dinan, like, once he piped in, realized he was going to get hit, and so he just arched his back, like, well, all right, I know I'm getting whipped. Go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
And a name came to Drizzt's lips. Massage. The hesitation. The lightning bolt. It was too perfect. The fifth house must be the one who had designs for House Do'Urden. Dinan tried to reason, maybe it was jealousy over Guinevere that prompted Massage, but no, Drizzt was certain now that Massage had tried to kill him.
Yep. And now House Do'Urden knows it's House Annette. Hence the name of the chapter, whatever it was.
Know that enemy?
to know your enemy. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's related to it, but I couldn't remember the exact wording. Awesome. So many good things happening in here, even though it's just a lot of conversation and everything. There's no fighting gnomes. There's no earth elementals. There's no, any surface raids or anything like that. But
I'm not going to lie,
so
we did have to do a little bit of digging to make sure we found some dungeon delving. But, this chapter is essentially like a lore dump, right? Like, in some of my favorite D&D episodes, there's not a whole lot of action that takes place. It's more the actual role playing, people being their persona and getting through so you can understand what's going on, what happened, what's going to happen next. Like, I feel like this chapter is really just pushing the first domino. All the other chapters have set up these dominoes in this intricate pattern, and now it's like somebody licks their hand. Again, I'm explaining for the people who can't see me on YouTube, and just a little tap, and watching it, you can see it. There goes the domino, but we don't know if it hits the next one yet. Like,
oh man, I'm sure it will. Anyway, all right, awesome, Drizzt. Let's get into our favorite parts of the chapter in the dim light reel. The dim light reel is where we cast darkness on our favorite parts of the chapter and dim light all of our favorite characters, events, descriptions, and more. And my dim light this week is House Annette revealed. And so I saw like the end of your Drizzt was relatively short, and I was like, oh, that's perfect because I'm gonna get right into that. So a few episodes ago, I remember asking you whether House Do'Urden knew that House Annette was planning the attack on House Do'Urden, or if, like, I thought earlier on that they figured that out, but no, they didn't. This is the chapter. So of course they didn't know, because they just found out now. So I absolutely loved the combination of scenes that led to this discovery. First, we had the clerics of House Do'Urden summoning the Handmaiden of Lolth, only to find out that someone in the house already knew, and...
What?
Quote, the Spider Queen does not give an answer to that is already known. This is a quote here, so I tried to quote it. I totally butchered it. The Spider Queen does not give an answer that is already known. Malice ended that scene with, "I do not enjoy being embarrassed," which I just loved that quote, just ending that scene. And I mean, just got me thinking, does anyone actually enjoy being embarrassed? I mean, I couldn't
so.
I couldn't think of any like personal story of mine where I was embarrassed and I was like, oh, that was really cool. I'd love to do that again. So I can only imagine that a matron mother would really not enjoy being embarrassed. Usually when we get embarrassed, we like try to hide and like get away and everything. But I just imagine like she was fuming and just like, yeah, just very different from us normal people being embarrassed.
Yeah, you got to imagine she has some really high blood pressure. You know, like she probably got to take a couple of things to lower that down because she just goes off at. She has a very quick fuse.
Yep, she's anger in the Inside Out.
She is definitely, what is it, like a Real Housewife of Atlanta? She is flipping tables. You know she's throwing things against the wall. Yeah.
The second scene that led to the discovery of House Hannet's intentions is really what I wanted to dim light, though. The brutal females of House Do'Urden were beating and whipping Dinan and Drizzt, giving them, like you said, inspiration on their history checks. So just hearing his brother getting whipped inspired Drizzt enough to connect some of the puzzle pieces and realize that Masage's lightning bolt could not have possibly been meant for the Earth Elemental, but no doubt had Drizzt's name all over it. So the clerics were quick to acknowledge that House Hannet is the enemy, but Dinan was also quick to say, perhaps not. And I love how Salvatore mentions here that there was a long pause after Dinan said that, because he was wondering himself, like Dinan was wondering why he said it. Like, if he would have just kept his mouth shut, the whipping would stop.
Yeah, that's like very much the Drizzt thing, right? To do is to just randomly insert a question that like you shouldn't be asking.
But Dinan said that.
Right, I'm saying like it's very much a Drizzt thing.
Yeah,
normally
yeah,
Drizzt is
right.
like, should we parlay? Maybe we shouldn't attack. And Dinan's like, stupid, don't ask dumb questions. And then in the middle of what you know, even Drizzt knows, don't ask dumb questions at this point, right? He's learned that. And Dinan's the one who's like, hey, by the way, you know what? Hold on, let me take the shirt off. Go ahead, whip me again. Ah.
Yeah. But he opened his mouth, so he needed to speak his mind. Like, Matron Malice is just like, speak! And it's like, oh, darn it, here we go. So his reasoning for Massage trying to kill Drizzt is, well, a lot of people want to kill Drizzt because they're jealous of him. And that reasoning really just is not enough for Matron Malice, though. Dinan kept trying to convince them otherwise. I guess he was worried that if they were wrong, the unsuspecting attackers would have an even larger advantage, right?
Well, that, and, you know, again, if you lash out incorrectly, if you're already in disfavor of the Spider Queen, it's going to make it worse.
Exactly. So Matron Malice says the Yachlal that said that one of us knows the identity of the enemy. All we have is Drizzt's tale of Massage, unless you are hiding something. And that final statement, oh my word, it just obliterated any argument that Dinan could have made. He just slumped back in the shadows. He doesn't have any other possible houses, right? Like, Drizzt gave them something, and they're just like latching on to House Hannet. It's House Hannet. It can't be anyone else.
I kind of admire how quickly Malice shuts down the argument, right? Because Dinan's like, hey, look, just to play, devil's advocate on the side, do we know what? And she's like,
yes.
Are you hiding something? He's like, oh, no, not me. Well, then shut up.
So between Massage being sent back with Halton following and the Do'Urdens starting to plot against House Hannet, the fact that we only have 5 chapters left to go, you really start to get the sense that something big is about to happen. And I'm like, it's like
domino.
We're almost, again, going back to the domino, or we're almost at the peak of this mountain here, and we're about to just like crash down, you know?
It's like you're on a really big roller coaster and everything else has been a clack, clack, clack as you climb the track, but you can see your car. You're up pretty high. Ooh, it's going to be a ride.
So excited. So that's my dim light for this week. Jeffrey, what do you have for us this week?
For me, I decided to call my dim light for this week, Risen Tells the Truth.
Oh, man.
For my dim light reel, I wanted to look at, what might not have come across as a big moment in the chapter, but which is certainly one of the most impactful for Drizzt. Matron Malice is on a warpath trying to figure out who has hidden information from her, information about who is trying to destroy House Do'Urden, information Lolth said was already known to her family. And Drizzt, he rounds a corner and suddenly hears the sound of a whip. "I am your patron," Risen said from the chamber. Briza retorted, "That's of no consequence." They were faced off against each other, but Risen was unarmed and Briza brandished her vicious whip. "Patron," she laughed. "A meaningless title. You are a male, lending your seed to the matron and of no more importance." Here, we see Risen has a bit of a spine. He's trying to stand up for himself against Briza in this interrogation. Up to this point, he's kind of been portrayed as a bit of a wet blanket.
True.
But here, he's at least trying to stand up for himself. "4 I have sired," Risen said indignantly. "3," Briza corrected, as she snapped her whip to drive the point home. "Vierna is Zachnophane's, not yours. Nalfine is dead, leaving only 2. One of those is female and above you. Only Dinan is truly under your rank."
Man.
In the chapter, we see Drizzt sink back against the wall. We knew for a long time that Risen was not the father of Drizzt. We know that he's been practicing against his father the whole time. Justin has been begging for them to talk. We know that he's been like an angsty teen and rebelling against his actual father. But Drizzt did not know that until just now. He suspected that Risen wasn't his father, but to hear it out loud, without Risen denying it, well, it really sinks it home. This is exactly why I wanted to dim light it, because this has to shake Drizzt's world to its very core.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, this is the moment of the book where all of Drizzt's views are suddenly cemented. He sought after the truth of who he is, of why he's different than all of those around him, and now he finds out that his true father is Zachnophaine. And I've got to think that, in a way, it kind of all makes sense to him. That this moment is like a gong going off in his head and just shaking him to his core, forcing him to reevaluate everything that he's ever known, or that he's thought he's known at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Risen fumbled about for some retort to Briza's stinging words. "Does Matron Malice know of your desires? Does she know that her eldest daughter seeks her title?" Briza just laughed at him. "Every eldest daughter seeks the title of matron mother. Matron Malice would be a fool to suspect otherwise. I assure you that she is not, nor am I. I will get that title from her when she is weak with age. She knows and accepts this as fact." Risen again showing off his fortitude as he refuses to crumble under the weight of Briza's interrogation. Instead, he tries to find some type of leverage against her to force her to stop, since, using his perceived station failed miserably at the beginning. Hearing her lay out the Drow playbook like this, though, it takes him a little bit by surprise. You admit that you will kill her? If not I, then Vierna. If not Vierna, then Maya. It is our way, stupid male. It is the word of Lolth. Risen is thoroughly outplayed and beaten here. Briza has taken away any leg that his authority could possibly give him to stand on. However, instead of accepting this fate, Risen snarls back at her defiantly, almost like he's just trying to draw blood, verbally.
Yeah.
Because he feels hurt, so you know what? Gonna hurt you too. Briza will not wait for age to steal her mother's power. Not when a dagger will expedite the transfer. Briza hungers for the throne of the house. The rest of his words kind of came out as indecipherable screams, though, as Briza lashed out at his insolence over and over again with her 6-headed snake whip.
Man, you had like 2 dim lights in one there. I mean, the reveal that Zach is Drizzt's dad, to Drizzt, that is. Like, we knew that Zach, but and then what I was actually another thing that I was considering for my dim light, the fact, like, I know it came up a number of episodes ago now, where we weren't sure how Drow houses really started. Like, one matron mother.
Secession and such, yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's like, oh, the matron mother eventually gets killed by one of her own daughters.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's the eldest that gets to move up, I would assume. Like, if Maya kills Matron Malice, Maya's not the eldest. It would be Briza still, unless Maya also kills Briza. And what is Vierna the youngest or Maya? I forget.
Maya is the youngest. I think Vierna's in the middle.
Yeah, so Maya would have to kill both of her sisters, I would assume. But it's kind of showing, again, just one of those ongoing themes of just how brutal the Drow culture is. Just how backwards and upside down they are.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, like, again, she doesn't flinch when she says it. She doesn't try to backpedal. She owns it. She's like, look, This is what we do. And the fact that you don't know it makes you dumb.
Yeah. Crazy. Awesome, though. Awesome. All right. That'll do it for the dim light reel. What do you say, Jeffrey? Ready to go dungeon delving?
Got my backpack on. Let's roll.
Let's go. Here we go into the Dungeon Delve. It's the part of the show where we link this chapter with our favorite tabletop RPG. As I said earlier, we play 5e, but always welcome insight from those that play older versions of the game. I'm very interested in them. I wish I had more time to actually try them out, but anyway, yeah, if you ever see anything that is anything from these books that would that are easily, like, the context of the game gets into these books here, we would love to hear about those. So make sure you let us know about those. So I know a couple episodes ago we had an Earth Elemental, and I didn't really, we had other things that we wanted to talk about. So here I want to highlight this Earth Elemental that was, again, referred to within this chapter. So let's see. As I said before, the elementals can be found on page 123 of the Monster Manual. And they're described as being incarnations of the elements that make up the universe and come in 4 flavors: air, earth, fire, and water. Of course.
Which is your favorite flavor? You know what? For our Spotify listeners, we actually have the ability to put up poll questions inside of it. And one of the things we're going to go ahead and do is put up a poll. What is your favorite flavor of elemental? Air, earth, fire, water. That way you guys can vote and we can get a little bit of interaction and see how you like.
Love it. Perfect. Great idea, Jeffrey. So, of course, if you understand anything about modern science, you know that air, earth, and water are actually made of more than just one element, and fire isn't actually an element at all. It's not even matter, it's energy. But back in Greek times, some people thought that these 4 concepts were the 4 base elements that made up everything. So luckily they did think this, because now we have awesome things like Avatar: The Last Airbender. We have Captain Planet, and we have the elementals in D&D.
Shout out to the Greeks, the originators of cosplay, though, because they had a Medusa, they had a guy dressed up as a bull with a Minotaur, they had all kinds of really cool things that must have somehow led to the D&D that we play, because you know what? Monster creation is amazing for the Greeks.
A lot of it, yeah. There's a lot of Greek mythology in D&D. It's really cool. Jeffrey, are you familiar with Captain Planet?
Yes, I am. I watched quite a bit of it.
Okay, awesome.
I got you. It's good. Captain Planet, he's our hero, gonna bring pollution down to 0. Yes, I am. And what you're missing in the elements is heart, by the way.
Oh, that's what
summon Captain Planet.
I was gonna say the same thing. Oh man, it's been so long since I watched that. I was gonna join in on the song with you, but I knew that due to the timing, the lag in the internet, it would have sounded horrible, so I didn't even try.
I found that out when me and Bobby tried to do the Goonie Oath together. It was bad, bro. I mean, loved it, bad in a good way, but
but it sounded so bad.
Yeah.
Well, you live and you learn. So that's where the so page 123 is in the Monster Manual is where you can find the elementals. But I actually wanted to jump into the Dungeon Master Guide real quick. Ooh. On page 57, there's an awesome visual of the elemental planes. And that, the elemental planes are the home of the elementals. But the elemental planes consist of those 4 planes: air, fire, water, and earth. and they are all encircling the material plane. And the idea is that the material plane is where all of the elements are mixing together, and that's why you have all of them in the material plane, right? You also have an interesting effect where the elements combine with other elements that are not in the material plane, like along their borders. And I mean, if you look up elemental planes on Google, you'll find the image I'm looking for, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So for instance, along the water and air border, there's a plane of ice called Frostfell. Along the water,
that's where the frost. Oh, what were they called? We did a creature feature on them. The frostbugs. They tried to summon Alden and Massage. They come from that plane. As a matter of fact, because we mentioned it.
The ice devils. The ice devils. Yes. Yeah. And then, also along the water and earth border, there's a mud plane called the Plane of Ooze.
Is that where the Ninja Turtles went in number 2?
Oh
no, that was the secret of the ooze.
And then, of course, water and fire are on opposite sides of the material plane from each other, so they don't border each other because they're opposites.
Right.
So, knowing that there are planes of like ice and mud, like, could you have an ice elemental or a mud elemental? It'd
be interesting.
Yeah, some homebrew stuff there. Hey, if there's anything like that out there, let us know. So anyway, back to that's just a little bit of like universe creation there. I know I used that a little bit in my own homebrew campaign. Also, like, something I didn't mention is like down at the material plane, there's 2 little shadow worlds, shadow realms. Well, the one is the Shadowfell or Shadow Realms or something like that. The other one is the Feywilds, which some people might have heard of. So they're like all part of that as well. So using those elemental planes for your own universe creation it's a lot of fun. But anyway, back to the monster manual. Elementals are described as living elements that have no desires other than to course through the element of its native plane. So if a rock elemental wants to just kind of flow through the rocks, it's basically all they do. They don't have a society, they don't have culture, they have a very small sense of being. So I mean, it's kind of a bland life, really.
So essentially they just enjoy like diving up to above the surface and then below it, in and out.
I think they
like when like a dolphin breaks the waves, they're just
I don't even
there's
know
way more to dolphins than that. Don't get me wrong. But like breaching from the water to the air,
elementals. I mean, yeah, they're just kind of existing within their own.
According to Douglas Adams, they definitely might be. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Thanks for the fish.
So, as we saw a couple chapters ago, elementals can be summoned using magic, but summoners must assert force on it. Otherwise, the elemental would just run rampant. I mean, I would imagine that either the elemental would start just killing indiscriminately, without being like,
just
really
running amok,
right? Without being like forced by their summoner, or they would try to like run away and recombine with its native element in an attempt to return to its plane. So, all elementals in 5e have a challenge rating of 5, but that's about where the similarities stop. So I'm just gonna focus on Earth elementals at this point. So Earth elementals have 126 HP and an armor class of 17. So they're pretty tough to hit. And they have a decent amount of HP to go along with that. They are vulnerable to thunder damage, which I know, like, when I was a young DM, thunder, I was like, oh, that's electricity. No, don't get that confused with lightning damage. Thunder damage is like sound waves.
Yep,
okay,
like
so
shock.
So they're vulnerable to that, and they're resistant to non-magical attacks like slashing, bludgeoning, piercing. They're resistant to that because they're rocks. They have a number of immunities like poison, exhaustion, paralysis, and more, but my favorite immunity has to be petrification.
Nice.
They can't be turned into rock, right?
Yeah, well, no more rock than they already are.
They speak Terran, which I thought was interesting. It's a language consisting of low, like, rumbles and deep tones that are used by beings of the Earth plane, which apparently are more than just Earth elementals. But
Interesting.
Yeah, but I couldn't find many examples online. Earth elementals have two abilities. They have Earth Glide, which allows the elemental to burrow through non-magical, unworked earth and stone without disturbing it, just like we saw with Gwen and Massage, when the Earth elemental just, like, dove into the ground, and it was just like, there was no splash, there was no explosion, it just passed through it.
It's interesting. Does that mean that, like, if you were tilling a field, they would disturb it? Or if it was like, the worked stone on the stalagmite houses in Menzoberran's, and that they couldn't pass through that since it's worked, or that they would disturb it?
Well, I think the idea is they're able to move through undisturbed. Like you would think, like, well-tilled soil would be very easy to move through, right? And so, like, they wouldn't have an issue with moving through it, but I just think, like, they're giving them an opportunity to pass through materials that are just like, it's solid rock. It's not gravel or something like that.
Right.
I think that's what that's saying. Another ability that they have that I thought was really interesting was something called Siege Monster, which is an ability where the elementals deal double damage to objects and structures. So I can just imagine the armies of Mordor using earth elementals instead of, like, trebuchets to knock down the walls of Minas Tirith in Return of the King. Like, nice. That just would have been so cool to watch. But I guess...
Instead, we got giant war elephants and the Riders of Rohan.
Yeah, which is still pretty cool. But
I cheered up.
I guess Sauron didn't make his way to the... Earth plane, and or he didn't learn how to summon them, whatever.
What an amateur wizard he turned out to be.
I know, right? All right, so Earth Elementals, they also have the ability to attack. The only attack that they really know is Slam, which is an attack that has +8 to hit. It can deal 14 damage, which, that's not too bad until you learn that they have multi-attack, so they can do that twice. So, a maximum of 28 damage in one turn, unless they get a critical hit. But, that's pretty unlikely. So for Drizzt to be able to take one of these down would definitely require him to have a few more levels than just one. Like he would probably have to be at least level 5 or 6 to take this thing on alone, if not even higher. But yeah. So, Earth Elementals, that's my Dungeon Delve for this week. What do you have for us, Jeffrey?
Well, I chose to go with a really obscure Dungeon Delve this week, and you guys might have to, go back through the chapter, try to find the mentions. It really barely mentioned in this entire book.
I don't think they ever heard of this, but we'll see.
So my Dungeon Delve is the Spider Queen. So, I mean, we're almost at the end of the book. I couldn't resist taking the opportunity to look at Lolth, the Spider Queen, as my Dungeon Delve.
It's kind of amazing that we never did take a look at Lolth in the Dungeon Delve.
And ironically, if you do try to go ahead and do a little research on her, it's not the easiest thing to find as far as a breakdown of the stat blocks and everything. But what I'm about to go through, yeepers. So she's been a part of the entire backdrop of this story. She is the Queen of Spiders, the Queen of Demon Web Pits, the most influential goddess of the Drow within the pantheon of the Dark Seldarine. Nice. Now, you might wonder what that is. The Dark Seldarine is the pantheon of Drow gods.
Nice.
I like it.
Interesting.
She is a goddess of cold cruelty, not out of place in the darkest depths of the endless abyss, reveling in betrayal and bloodshed. Her malevolence could be compared to the rage of the brutal orc deity Grumpsh. But where his fury was as mindlessly violent as a force of nature, her malice was complicated and deliberate. Love the combination because I definitely know Grumpsh. She's the one-eyed guy.
Gotcha. Yep.
She demands absolute fealty and obedience from all Drow, and she takes a vengeful notice if anyone abandons her faith. Lolth disdained planar beings less powerful than herself, viewing them as either pawns or foes. Those more powerful than her were met with contempt. She coveted the status of the most powerful beings and sought to ascend to their station through deception, betrayal, and murder. Her followers were mainly Drow, but also Arania, Ch'tiin, Dragloths, and Deep Dragons, and even a few elven followers to whom she appeared as Moander, a deity of rot. Heavy infighting among her followers were meant to cull the weak. I found it kind of cool that she mentioned as the queen of rot to the elves, because elves being very, forest, nature, loving, surface dwellers. The queen of rot is just a natural cycle of
death.
Earth.
Just
of the plants and the life, of life itself.
Yep.
And so she still plays that evil deity, but it's just somehow seen differently to the elves, because they wouldn't look at Lolth as the spider queen and be like, yay! However, Moander, the deity of rot, they're like, trees do fall down, they rot, they get eaten.
It's not a horrible thing. Like, they decompose, you use them as fertilizer and grow plants. And
Lion King taught me it's all part of the circle of life. And now, for the part you've all been waiting for, right? This is where I could find on her. So it might be a little homebrew. I blame D&D wiki forums. Her armor class is 23. The hit points...
Oh, man!
Oh, wait till you get through this one. Her hit points are 30 D20 plus 300.
What in the world?
An average of 615.
I guess she's a god, right?
Yeah. She has a speed of 60 feet and can also climb at 60 feet. Her stats are buffed as well. She gets a +6 to strength, +10 to dex, +10 to con, +8 to intelligence, +8 to wisdom, +10 to charisma.
What in the
Skills?
world?
Yeah. Skills, take a deep breath. +26 arcana, +24 athletics, +19 deception, +26 history, +17 insight, +26 perception, +19 persuasion, +26 religion, +19 stealth.
Jeffrey, she's never failing a check ever. Not with those stats. What the heck?
No. That's crazy. And we're not done, but you can tell that she's truly a foe of immense status. I mean, she is the Spider Queen. She is the largest in the pantheon for the Drow, right? So she's not going to be an Earth elemental.
Yeah.
Her challenge rating shows a 30, worth 155,000 experience.
Oh my word! Yep,
she's damage resistant to fire and damage from spells. Mm-hmm.
That's gonna say that's the challenge rating of 30. When you said that, it reminded me of a Tarask. That's also a challenge rating of 30.
Ooh.
Crazy.
She is damage immune to acid, cold, lightning, poison, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. Non-magical attacks. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, good luck.
Yeah.
Condition immunities to blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, and stunned. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is this inspiring a sense of dread yet? Because it's really narrowing down what you're going to be able to do to her, and she's evidently a freaking tank.
It's definitely inspiring my next D&D session.
Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be in that one. 240 feet of blind sight, not dark vision.
Wow.
Blind sight.
Blind sight.
240 feet of tremor sense and true sight.
Oh, my word.
Oh, and a passive perception of 36, just in case you thought sneaking around made sense.
Oh, my word.
She speaks, all languages, and she's telepathic up to 120 feet. She wields 6 gargantuan-sized Vorpal scimitars.
The weapons are gargantuan.
Yeah, well, she changes sizes, but yeah, the weapons that she carries in that, she has 8 arms, 8 limbs. Yeah,
well, yeah, because she would be big, and that's crazy.
She has cunning action. This allows her to dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus. As a bonus action. Discorporation. When her hit points hit 0 or she dies, her body and belongings are destroyed. But her essence travels back to her domain in the demon web pits, and she is unable to take physical form for a time. She also has fear aura. Any creature hostile to Lolth that starts its turn within 240 feet of her must make a DC save of 27. Wisdom. Unless Lolth is incapacitated. I don't think that happens very much.
I don't think that does.
Failure results in the creature being frightened until the start of its next turn. However, success grants you immunity for 24 hours. Yep. But much like an infomercial. But wait, there's more. She has improved critical. Her weapons crit at 19 and 20.
Oh, man.
She has innate spellcasting. Her ability is wisdom. The spell save is a DC of 25. She has a plus 17 to hit with spell attacks. And she can cast innately the following spells with no required material components. Blink, Charm Person, Detect Thoughts, Dancing Lights, Darkness, Dimension Door, bonus action for that one, Dominate Person, Fairy Fire, Levitate, Mirror Image, Pass Without a Trace, Polymorph, and Web. Also a bonus action.
Jeez.
Intimidated yet?
I've been intimidated once you said what her AC was, Jeffrey.
She also has Legendary Resistance.
Oh, man.
Works 3 times a day. If she fails a saving throw, well, she can choose to succeed instead. What? Limited magic immunity. She's immune to spells of 6th level or lower. I mean, it makes sense, though, because if you're rolling in there as a 5th level wizard casting, right, she's got way too many stats for you to be in there. You should run. You should run. She's immune, and I found this really odd wording, unless she chooses to be affected. I don't know why she would, but hey, she has advantage on all other saving throws against spells. Then, Mage Slayer. A creature provokes an opportunity attack when they cast a spell within her reach, which we've said is enormous. That creature has disadvantage on saving throws to maintain its concentration. Reactive. She can take 1 reaction on every turn in combat.
Whoa.
Warcaster. When a creature provokes an opportunity attack from Lolth, she can choose to use a reaction to cast a spell that only targets that creature. She has an advantage on saving throws to maintain her concentration. Web Sense, which this totally makes sense. She knows when you're in her webs.
Yep.
Web Walker, should go without saying, she can move across webs without restriction because Spider Queen.
Yep.
And that's it, right?
Yeah.
No. Now we've got actions. Hang in there.
Oh, jeez.
Multi-attack.
Okay, so two attacks.
Nope. She makes 6 attacks.
Oh my gosh.
She can substitute any number of attacks to use her fling action. Wait till I get to that. You're going to love this. Yep. A Vorpal Scimitar is a melee attack. It gets a plus 22 to hit, reach of 15 feet, 1 target. It does 4d6 plus 13 damage, slashing. Oh, damage is magical and it ignores the resistance to slashing damage.
Oh my word.
When Lolth attacks a creature that has at least 1 head and she rolls a 20, she then cuts off the one of the creature's head. Creature automatically dies if it cannot survive without the head. The creature is immune to this effect if it's immune to slashing damage, doesn't have or need a head, or has legendary actions, or it's too big for its head to be cut off with this weapon. In this case, it just takes an extra 6d8 of slashing damage from the head.
Jeez.
Unarmed, melee, it's a plus 19 to hit, reach of 10 feet.
She's never missing.
1 target, it's a hit of 4d4 plus bludgeoning. She can grapple the target if she's in her large mode and it's smaller than her, or if it's smaller than her and she's in her true form. She has bite. This is in spider form only. It's a plus 19 to hit, a reach of 5 feet. It gives you 1d8, plus 10 piercing damage. And the target then has to make a DC 20 save con saving throw to take half damage.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. A fail is 2d8 of damage. Beautiful. Here comes Fling.
Okay.
Lolth throws a creature she is grappling up to 200 feet away horizontally.
Oh my word.
In a direction of her choice. Creature making a DC 23 saving throw fails to take damage as if the fail takes damage as if the distance it's thrown fell.
Okay.
So if you're thrown 200 feet, you take damage as if you had fallen 200 feet.
Oh my word.
And then if you're still alive, you fall prone. But rest assured, if you succeed, you only take half of that damage from falling, and you don't go prone.
But it's what? It's 1d6 bludgeoning.
Every 5 feet?
For every 10. Is it 5 feet
There's
or
10
feet? I think it's 10 feet, I think.
And you know what? Look, you're not getting thrown 200 feet every time. Where you meet her is probably going to be a smaller thing, but still, that is brutal. Change shape. This is where it comes to the different sizes of Lolth. She magically polymorphs into a medium female drow, a tiny spider, a large spider, or back to her true form. In spider or giant spider form, she does lose the vorpal scimitars, unarmed strike, and fling actions. So she's just biting. Now, she also gets legendary actions. Yep, still not done.
Man.
She can take 3 legendary actions, one at a time, and only at the end of another creature's turn.
Yep.
She regains spent legendary actions at the start of her turn. She can move, which allows her to move up to her speed. She can attack with with the scimitar, unarmed strike, bite, or fling. Or she can summon demons. This costs all 3 of the legendary actions. You summon 2 D4 Yachlal.
Jeez.
Each appear in unoccupied spaces within 60 feet of Lolth and act as her allies. They disappear with her when their HP hits 0 or Lolth dismisses them. When she uses this, she then cannot use legendary actions again until all Yachlal are defeated or disappear. Holy cow. That was so much. Justin, how would you like to fight Lolth?
On her side.
He's like, dressed up as a Yachlal?
No, I mean, just like... So you found this on D&D Wiki? Or D&D
Yep.
Beyond? Or D&D Wiki?
Yeah, D&D Wiki forums.
Okay. I would like to know if anyone has ever actually fought this stat block.
Well,
and
I don't know
and
about this one. We
succeeded.
definitely had somebody talk about the fact that there's a module to go into the demon web pits after Lolth.
Right, and that was in AD&D, like the first edition. There were like 6 or 7 modules all in a row, finishing with Lolth at the very end, which is like, if she looks anything like this, just imagine that, going through 6 or 7 modules just to get to Lolth at the very end and then failing. That would just be like...
No, having read that stat block, I imagine failing is my best option.
Like, it's so wild. That would be really cool, though, to just like...
And in this corner, Lolth, no, give me the dragon. I would like the giant dragon instead. One-on-one combat. I would like to actually fight the dragon unarmed in melee combat instead of Lolth.
Right. It would be really fun, though, probably. It would take forever to just like get a group of 5 adventurers together, level them all up to 20, and attempt this attack.
I mean, and she's got to be, grand champed out, right? Because when you're max level, you're probably going to have all these cool magical items and effects and things, auras and stuff that will boost your stats to just unrealistic numbers. And, well, I mean, you're going to need those unrealistic numbers to just to try to harm her.
Right. To get
I found it
one-hitted.
interesting that it was like, all of those damages, she's immune to that are not magical, which means, again, if you've got magical weapons, hey, let's get into some damage. Like maybe you've got these two scimitars, maybe one is Twinkle, maybe one's Icing Death, just throwing them out there. And magical equipment will do some damage to her. But you can't just walk in there with a dagger and be like, shank, you like that? Nope, she's going to just laugh at you.
Yeah, exactly. She's not Shelob.
Yeah. So, like, I picture you've got to have a large group of adventurers maxed out, and then also have just a treasure hoard of the correct items with you, preparing to know exactly what you're going to deal with, because you do not slaughter gods easily.
No. Well, that's why they're gods, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what a great episode we had here, Jeffrey. But that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Remember that if you like the show, give us a 5-star rating. Hit those subscribe buttons. On YouTube, leave us a comment, just get in there and participate with us. Also, make sure that you are getting the most out of the show. Pick up a copy of the book and read along with us. If you don't have time to read, get a copy of the audiobook and listen to it wherever you are. I mean, I almost always listen to the audiobook on my commute, but I'll tell you what, on hot days like this, I would much rather be listening to it in my hammock in the sun with a cold margarita in my hand. When you've read the next chapter, shoot us an email at drizzdoneright@gmail.com or log on to our Discord and join in on the ongoing discussion. Remember, we would love to hear from you.
Oh my goodness. The end of the book is approaching quickly. I'm not sure I'm ready for it. Dear faithful listeners, I'm going to put a link up in the Discord channel for the D&D campaign that we mentioned. I need to get enough interest from people to pull it off. I'm not sure exactly the time frame yet, but I really wanted to do a one-shot campaign at the Grand Tournament of Melee Mag Theater. So, what I have you guys go into the Discord link that'll be in the episode description, like I mentioned before. Join the Dim Light Squad, and look for the tab to join the D&D campaign. Let me know if you'd like to join, what your availability is day-wise. Speaking of links, in this episode description, we do have one up that says support this podcast. And, it's kind of a way for you to buy us a cup of coffee, a tankard of ale, or maybe one of those enchanted weapons. It's just my fun way of saying that all your donations go to the show so that we can increase our artwork, our outreach, and our equipment at a faster rate. For those of you who have stuck around with us and look forward to the episodes we've got coming down the pipe, until the next time you press play, say farewell, play fair, be well, friends.